What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the third mixtape by Chance the Rapper. Basically this product is called Coloring Book and it came out in the spring of 2016. So the thing about this particular product here is this mixtape was kind of a particular big deal back when it came out in like the spring of 2016. Wound up winning like a Grammy Award for the best rap album in 2017 as far as those pitches can happen, which for the most part mixtapes didn't commonly do that. So this definitely had a lot of crossover type appeal. Now nowadays I don't remember as much because DatPiff is no longer around, but I question how many downloads it had gotten on DatPiff because Acid Rap from 2013 I want to say crossed like the million downloads threshold as far as those pitches can happen. I remember it having like a diamond in like its insignia within those pitches with mixtapes like Rich Forever and like Dream Chasers 2, some of those type ones. So Acid Rap was definitely one of the highest downloads off that particular website back in the day. But this one, I want to say I am fairly certain that Coloring Book did hit a million downloads as well. It was definitely a big deal around that time. This is one that was on like this is a mixtape that was on national television and pitches like that. This I remember Chance the Rapper being on like Good Morning America, some of those type of affairs back in those particular days. So he crossed over pretty well. He got to the point of like just off of mixtapes because I want to say that actual his debut album was like The Big Day or something like that came out in like 2019 or 2020. But he kind of was dropping mixtapes here and there. But the thing about Chance the Rapper's mixtapes is they were kind of treated as albums just because the overall appeal, the overall hype, appeal, and furor around them as far as those pitches kind of happened. So he was touring and getting towards those particular big vibes with that particular type of stuff. So this is definitely a big deal around that time. Now I gave Acid Rap a 10 out of 10. That was definitely a tour de force to some excellence as far as those pitches can happen. Had a lot of good aspects about it. It was pretty much like some sleepy kind of like Mac Miller and Wiz Khalifa type raps within the pitches behind it, along with like some good kind of just bluesy and kind of gusty day type commerce within the pitch behind it. Some good pitches like that. A little bit of New York type fare just within the pitch. He is from Chicago within this kind of in-between city type fare within the pitch behind just within the aspect of basically like getting like a more early 20s version of what Kanye was kind of up to with like College Dropout, Late Registration days. This album does not have that as much, but it does have the Kanye affiliation. This is a very gospel-esque type project just within the tones. So just understand the concept that fucking with this project, if you're not as religious oriented, I would probably say Acid Rap's the better one to go with, but there is some good concepts on here. For the most part, most of this is pretty saliently excellent. I'd have to say just within the pitch. There are some ones that do. There are some ones on here where the religious undertones are more heavy than probably the aspect of what I would probably full bound go for. But I look within the pitch just within the tone that there is some good stuff on here. Basically, I would just look after like the concept of more just concept of like something that Kanye would do with his more rejoiceful type moments when you get something like some of those type of ones where he'd have like a choir on there and pitches like that with albums like College Dropout, Late Registration. It's kind of within the pitch like a mixtape type format because Chance the Rapper, the things he's saying when you listen to the lyrics on here, he's not, I mean, even if there is like some lyrics about Sundays and church and some of that type of within the aspect, a lot of times like when you think of a song like the second single on here, song like No Problem, the second single definitely has some of that snarl saying like don't fuck with me, some of those type pitches just within the pitch behind it. So it has a different type tone. It's just the aspect of kind of getting both ends of like the compatibility. It's just a good type tone to kind of have some of that. I'm glad for that just within the pitch. I'm glad that it didn't wind up being just kind of, just more like, I'm glad that there was the concept of being able to pull off like some kind of churchy type music with like the edge factor still around within that aspect. Keeps it kind of within the factor of being able to have some of those type pitches. I look after it like basically a vibe about a pretty suited vibe about this particular product is like Kendrick Lamar. When you think of the song "Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe," is kind of that's pretty much like a almost central theme about this particular project. Kind of the concept of feeling myself in a good mood. Don't bring that energy over here as far as those pitches kind of happen just within the pitch behind it. It's just a good aspect for some of that type fare. So it works for like Sunday type fashion, some of those type fairs just within the concept of it. If you do have the aspect of maybe you're forced to go to church or some of those type of tones that just within the pitch or whatever is within the aspect of just the concept that you are like Chance the Rapper. Just look, I'm kind of reading the article about this product as I'm looking towards this. He said that he was zanned out off this particular product. So it's just within the tone as far as saying it's the in-between type moments of just having like some smokish type fare, standard beezies around pitches like that, just within the aspect of just having like a relative kind of a mild or just depending upon how you look after this, the factor of that churchy aspect just on top of it. So it's just, this is probably like one of the most banner type, in terms of like what I would think of gospel type music, this is definitely a state of the art one within those pitches. Like I think when you think of like trajectory for how to make a gospel album, Chance the Rapper definitely had a pretty good aspect that this is how gospel music should kind of be, just within the tone behind it. This is one of those ones, like, definitely when you think of like blueprints for like rap music, when you think of like Eminem's The Marshall Mathers LP, Dr. Dre's Chronic 2001, 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Trying, Ludacris's Word of Mouth, or Red Light District, some of those type of ones, state-of-the-art albums that are just classics, Tupac's All Eyes on Me. This is probably like a banner kind of blueprint for how to make gospel music within that pitch. Now, obviously, within the tone for actual traditional type ones, they're actually trying to get you to have it, but within the aspect of like the edge factor and just the slickness factor as to how Chance the Rapper pulled it off, and completely might have been at like church atmospheres just at 8 o'clock or whatever in the morning, just still being the aspect that he still kept his edge, and just the aspect of just what he was up to as far as those pitches, just having that thrilling concept, but just being able to have both sides of the coin. So it's a good type fare for that. It's really nailed it. Let's look after. So there are 3 singles off this project. The thing about it is I recommend 2.5 of them. So basically I recommend No Problem, but not as full bound, but we'll get to that. So Angels is the first single. It's like a jazzy kind of car commerce, I'd have to say here. Just pretty similar to like Kanye on like his college dropout type days. Just some grateful type moments I'd feel like here. Some of that DJ Khaled and Kanye West type appreciation type fare. It's like a nice feeling, fine hop to kind of get just some commute just in the pitch behind it. Angels is just like a nice mixtape type hop, just some pitches of just like the aspect of just being in a relative cheery type mode. And I would confuse this project just more over with the concept of just feeling like in a more cheesing type aspect. If you're cheesing more often, if things are going good just in the tone, you got some zigzags pitches, like you got several packs of zigzags, some good snackage, some good fare like that. Just things going good promotion at your job, some of that type fare, just enjoying the times, active beesies in your life, some of that type fare, just good commercial streak of things just on the upside as far as those pitches kind of happen. Just some good type tone for some of that just commerce, just kind of within the fare, just kind of within the aspect of just the real jazzy type song just within the pitch. It's real similar to like Kanye West out of 2004, 2005, some of those type pitches, just like a mixtape hop just for some commute just in between, and like a kind of just almost kind of sunny afternoon or late day within the fare behind it. Some of that good type fare just in like city hop type pitch. That's good concept. So No Problem is the second single, and this is an almost song for me just because this is a little bit strengthier in like the religious undertones of it, but I still think this is a relatively nice song. It's going to get recommendation, but just not as full blown. This is like a rejoicing but mixtape snarl about this particular song, so just understand the concept. This is one of those ones I was talking about where Chance the Rapper pulls out the factor of this being kind of like a gospel type product, but it's not this, go to church, have the faith, not just one of those products that just go to church, pray all day, have some of those type pitches, don't do drugs, some of that type of actually has some good aspects of just the tone behind it. It's like a get together kind of buzz they're kind of have within that pitch. Feels like Kanye left over with lots of preach type factor about it just in the pitch behind it. When you think of church, preach, tabernacle, some of those type things that more pimp type folks would kind of say, like Snoop Dogg or Too Short, E40, some of those type folks, just kind of has that aspect about it. And it's not so much like a pimpish type song, but just the aspect of when you get some of those more skits in there where you have like Pimpin' Ken or some of those type of folks where they'd say preach or church, some of that type of stuff that Snoop Dogg and some of those type folks would kind of do. It's just some of that aspect of that. That's kind of some of that type fare, just the aspect behind it. But just kind of, it's a good song to vibe to just in the pitch behind. But this is definitely one that just feels more of like Sunday type fare, just in the pitch behind it. Just like a get together, just in a more aspect of maybe more family oriented, where you would have some of that type fare where even if it is some sort of festivity where there would be beers and that sort of concept you really get crunk to, it's just in the aspect of just realizing that there is kind of the aspect of this like kind of gospelish kind of tones within that pitch towards those pitch can happen. So it just feels more of like this churchy kind of music, but it's not, but it does within the edge factor of it. So it's just kind of good, like this is manageable within the sense behind it. This is probably one of the most kind of religious undertone type songs out this particular product. That's the only real reason why it doesn't get as full bound recommended. I feel like it has like most of that kind of tint and sheen off most of this particular product, but this is just one where just the aspect of it's a little bit higher. But it's within a pitch, it is some good for absolute like tones of that to like the extreme. This is still a good song within the pitch behind it. It's a good type fare. But so then Summer Friends is the third single. It's a nice one here. I do recommend this one. Full bounds, like a jury kind of after party. Summer Friends, like a jury kind of after party wooziness kind of get here. Just some fizzy kind of mixtape radio grabs kind of have within that pitch. Feels like some Marvin Gaye and Kanye West kind of slime as far as those pitch kind of happen. Just the after effect of one of those type moments. Maybe be like a ballroom where there's just a lot of people, tuxedo type music. Just the after effect where the balloons that would be up in the sky are starting to come down to the ground as they start to run out of air. Some of those type pitches, just the punch is all drunk. So the punches all drank, some of those type of pitches, just the after effect where people starting to get a little bit drunken and woozy, just some of the after effects. It'd probably be more of like, I would say about 1:30, 1:45, 2:15 a.m. pitches like that as folks are starting to head out a little bit, just end of the night type fare. Good type concepts for that. Does have a lot of radio appeal, but this kind of has more of like 80s R&B and this kind of Kanye West College Dropout late registration type vibes about a good type pitch. So that's the concept about this particular album. So there's 14 songs on this album, and I would say almost in some fashions there's more like 13, because there's like this song on here called Dram Sing Special, which I don't know what Dram stands for, D-R-A-M, just with the pitch behind it. I feel like that's less of a song because it doesn't feel like Chance the Rapper is on there as much. It's kind of felt like an extra kind of almost interlude type song. So I'd almost say it's out of 13 songs, but out of 13 or 14 songs in here, I wound up recommending 8.5. So this was to say 8 full-blown songs I recommend, plus one song, the No Problem single. That was kind of an almost song as far as this pitch kind of happened. So approximately 8.5 out of 13 or 8.5 out of 14. I'm going to give this mixtape like a 7.75 out of 10 as far as those fares going to happen, raising the score some. I realize that 8 out of 14 is a little bit more than half, but just within the aspect that this does have a lot of appeal. It's free music on top of that, but I would say, 8.5, basically 9 out of 13 would kind of be more in like 8 out of 10 relative type territory within the fare behind it, which would really only be about 4 songs I don't full bound recommend, but it's just within the pitch that it's being able to say is just kind of within that relative kind of territory. It's just kind of here and there. It's just kind of an awkward kind of positioning as to where to really rank this particular product, just because there are a handful of songs that are not recommended on here, but there's one interlude slash skit song, and then there's one almost song on top of that just within the pitches. But this is free, and it does have some aspects, and this is a feel good, kind of has some charm about it just within the pitch behind it, that it pulls off the vibe based upon the styles that was kind of getting melded into around this particular time. Because Chance the Rapper was kind of at the forefront of the mixtape scene. He probably was one of the bigger ones in terms of like folks that were between about 1991 to like the mid-late 90s as far as this pitch can happen in terms of like the face of like this was definitely one of the highest selling mixtapes or most downloaded mixtapes out of 2016 as like mixtapes started to change directions as far as those fairs going to happen. Things started going to retail mixtapes, like Meek Mill was dropping Dream Chasers 4, and like Yo Gotti was starting to drop like Cocaine Music 9, where he was starting to put out retail mixtapes. So it was just kind of within the pitch, the typical kind of Dat Piff era mixtape from like the early 2010s starting to shift out. So he was becoming like a face of this, and it's this kind of concept with him getting on national television. I want to say he's like a judge or something like that. I don't know if he was back in like the mid-late 2010s, but he did blossom into television type appeals, and he is kind of affiliated with like Good Morning, or just more ABC television type fare, just more vanilla television places like CNN, some of those type places, morning television definitely. So it's just within the pitch, he found like a pretty good niche as far as being like in commercial kind of rap in the banner of it. So just within the fare, but look after it's just kind of the concept that it's like the vast majority of this product is pretty overall heralded within the concept of it, and nails a lot of these aspects pretty well. It's just the concept that you just have to understand that it just has more within certain kind of gospel type tones within it that may just not be as immediate in terms of like the casual type aspects. I feel like acid rap is probably a little bit more so. But talk about these 5 songs I don't recommend on here. Like the 5 songs I don't recommend would just be Blessed, the 2 versions of Blessings, the dual song Finish / Drown, and then the extras, and then another song on here, How Great, and then the 5th song would be the Dram Sing Special, which I said is kind of like not really a song as much. But basically most of these songs I don't recommend. The 2 Blessing songs, the How Great song, which is unfortunate because Jay Electronica is on there. He had some pretty good stuff from what it seemed like. He got like a bunch of Jay-Z executive production, and then Finish / Drown had folks like T-Pain and some of those type folks on there. But most of these, the religious undertones on these particular songs are just really cranked up high. So these are just more of ones where it just really becomes about more gospel-like faithing. Where it just is turned up higher than like the standard package. So I picked a lot of the songs on here that just kind of have like some good solid enough hop and bop within the pitch. It just like some in-between type fair songs like Angels. It's like some good car commerce, just after work shift kind of excitement. Songs like Summer Friends are like some ballroom kind of after moments. Like All Night's like a real good dance party, house party type appeal. Smoke Breaks, like obvious, like the song title is pretty good. Smoke Break type song, just some in between type moments. Flirting with Chicas during Smoke Break, some of that type fare it had to say. and like all we got is like a good house party type bop. So it's just within some of those type of pitches, just being able to say, but just understand that it does, like if you are looking for actual something that is traditional gospel, it does get to that crank as far as those pitches can happen. Just it can be cranked up to that notch as far as those fares going to happen, but it just depends upon how extreme you're wanting for that. But yeah, this does have like the appeal, like some solidness. So I'm gonna go ahead and recommend some of these on here. So Smoke Break, probably one of my more favorite songs off this product. It's like a dreary kind of evening glaze, kind of get here feeling just right, kind of smoke a couple. I'd have to say just some in between kind of city hop. Definitely reminds me of stuff like Mac Miller, some of those type folks that I have to say here. Like the fact that Future was on this particular song as far as those pitches can happen, just real good aspect behind some of that. Just Smoke Break is a pretty good song that goes along with Angels, just for like that gusty kind of Tuesday, Wednesday afternoon. I wouldn't say there's as much kind of full bound Friday night, Saturday night type music within the pitch. A lot of this is just between like the days, I'd probably have to say between like Sunday and Wednesday, some of that type fare, but I would at least say that Tuesday, or I would at least say that Smoke Break and Angels are kind of like some good beginning of the week type bops, kind of get within that tone of just like standard kind of tradition, just makeshift type commerce, some of those type pitches, just like that College Dropout type haze. It's basically like a mixtape variation of College Dropout, some of that type fare, just like gusty kind of in between type commerce, just in the pitch behind it. A pretty nice one on here. I would have liked more songs like this. I think that this particular song didn't fit the theme of this product, but I do like the fact that it's on here. Like I said, I definitely feel like there need to be more songs like this. It's just the song simply titled Mixtape. This has Young Thug and Lil Yachty on here. Pretty good pitch for that. It's like a nice vanilla and commercial kind of spin on like blooming kind of mid 2010s trap, I'd have to say here. Just a brooding kind of roll out type music, kind of get within that pitch. Just some cruise arounds just in the pitch behind it. Typical of like Young Thug, Lil Yachty, some of those type folks, just that say just feels ripped out of 2016 like it should, and it's like a slinky kind of hitter to kind of get. Good concept about some of that type fare to kind of get. So if you do need like some vehicle thump within the concept, like some good turn up for like standard Chance the Rapper and folks that were kind of doing that around that time, it's a good nice one for that. Juke Jam is a quality one. This surprisingly has Justin Bieber on here, which I don't know how many times Justin Bieber was kind of on mixtapes in like the Dat Piff era, so it's a good concept to kind of get some of that. Also has a cat on here named Tokyo, pretty good pitch for that. So it's like an after hour, Juke Jam's like an after hours kind of sludge, I'd have to say. This reminds me of Kanye and Cudi, Kanye West and Kid Cudi. I'd have to say just some Kanye West and Kid Cudi kind of ambience kind of get off this particular song, just a vibe out and kind of like a stairwell, I'd have to say, pitches like that, just kind of smoke, gab, just a lit type song kind of get. Just in the pitch, I mean, this definitely feels like some house party type fare. This one goes great with summer friends. I'd have to say just the aspect, just the after effects of just kind of being in the relative proximity to like some social festivities, some of that type fare, just the basic kind of 3 a.m. just kind of sauntering, just drunken kind of drunk text and just drunken kind of chit chat, just the after effect of just saying things, just in the aspect, just kind of standard story and joke telling, just the gab of that particular type aspect of this after moments of just this feels like a 1986 or 1981 kind of R&B party, just some tuxedo type music, just with the appeal behind it as far as those fares can happen, just some good type fares. Then All Night is a quality one on here. This is probably the most social one in terms of like a traditional kind of dance sense, or I mean, this definitely feels like probably like a Sunday dance party, or at least like a relative kind of composed and like more blue collar. The thing about this particular product is a lot of this is pretty blue collar. It's definitely like a traditional kind of factory in terms of like standard kind of like brick and mortar kind of blue collar type makeshift project, kind of get within that sense. That's interesting for like a Dat Piff mixtape kind of do it. It's just more factory and vanilla within that tone, like a traditional kind of sense. Just more like when you think of like traditional pop compared to this like dance pop, this is like a traditional kind of like blue collar type mixtape for folks that kind of need that appeal, just in the aspect behind it. So yeah, All Night is like a nice dance and salsa like spice to kind of get out this particular song. Definite punch and appetizer kind of party music, just in that tone. Just more tuxedo parties, standard like costume parties, some of those type pitches where there's going to be punch and some of that type of stuff. Hors d'oeuvres, things like hors d'oeuvres and standard kind of where you're going to have like those jokes to kind of have just to crank out as far as those pitches can happen to kind of break the ice, some of those type of appeals that I'd say. And it's like some graceful soirees kind of get here within that fare behind it. So this is probably more amidst like the night compared to like songs like Summer Friends and Juke Jam, or some those two songs feel more of like 1:32 in the morning. All Night's kind of more of one for like 9:30, 10. It's like this still cresting some of those type pitches, I'd have to say. Good type of appeal for that. A particular song that feels like it probably could have had some real good radio appeal is Same Drugs. This feels very similar to like the song Holy by Justin Bieber, the same sort of piano cadence and gospel-like appeal, that particular one. So if you like the song Holy by Justin Bieber, this is like the Chance the Rapper variation of that. It's like a possible kind of gospel pop single to get out this particular aspect here, and this is like a faith. Particular song would be like some faith-ish kind of makeshift kind of get within that tone. So this is one that just kind of feels like this beginning of the week kind of just makeshift within the sense of just more gospel within the orientation. expectation behind it. Just kind of keeps that aspect of this particular product, but just has it with like the standard get to work day to day as far as those pitches can happen. Just more tradition within that fare behind it. It's a very kempt and prim and proper type song. Now, when you listen to the lyrics, it just talks about the fact that you're not doing like the same drugs as far as those pitches can happen, but it's just within the tone as far as saying it's just the aspect. I mean, that's why I talk about the edge factor with this particular product. I mean, you think within the production type fare that'd be a little bit more. You think within the production fare of this product that'd be a little bit more clean cut within the tone, but the actual aspect is Chance the Rapper was living pretty good off this particular product. Just had some good aspects. The thrills behind it as far as the aspect. Just take the lyrics of it and just be able to realize that you don't have to be a square one. You have more just kind of just the aspect if you are within the composition of being more gospel within those pitches of some of these type of things, just in the tone. Yeah, I do feel like this had a pretty good factor within the blueprint of how to do like these sorts of concepts for folks that have more prim and proper type aspects. I definitely feel like this is a good nutrient within those aspects behind it. Not to say like it's just something to just be like, not to treat this project like a tool, but it's just a good example of some good music that was out and about around this particular time. And then All We Got's another nice one on here as well. This is kind of like a contemporary kind of house party noise kind of get off this particular fare. It goes great with All Night and Juke Jam, some of those type ones. I'd say definitely some good couch chit chat. I'd have to say just good song to gel and snack to as far as those pitch kind of happen with it. This would be some great holiday party type music kind of get to. Just the aspect of just like the initial moments, like some house party noise. Definitely I'd say a little bit earlier in the night, seemingly just the initial kind of break the ice type fare as far as those pitches kind of happen compared to like a song like All Night. Some of those type ones where the festivities get crazier, but it's just when the pitch having some of that relative type fare, just some good shindigs for that. So that's the appeal behind this particular product. Some good type fares here. So once again, I give this mixtape like a 7.75 out of 10. Just had to say here, the social score, I'm probably going to give the social score a little bit higher. I'd have to say maybe like an 8.5 or an 8.75, just within the pitch behind it. Probably say I'll give the social score of this project like an 8.5 out of 10 because it did have some singles that did chart pretty well. This actually had some good aspects about this particular project. It had some good commercial appeal about it. It was a big deal off of like Dat Piff and like morning television pitches like that standard kind of vanilla kind of commerce and pitches like blue collar brick and mortar type fare, just the standard appeal. This is one that seemed like it caught a lot more attention compared to a lot of mixtapes out there. When you think of all the crested mixtapes that kind of happened, you know, over 500,000 mixtapes that were on Dat Piff back in the day as far as this pitch kind of happened, this is one of the ones that was most downloaded. Probably the most snap, and probably this is one of the easiest ones to kind of have for like a kind of older generation type fare. I'd say within the concept where it seemed like kind of older Gen X's, baby boomers, silent generation, some of those type of folks would maybe more so kind of commonly know about compared to like maybe one that you would think of like a mixtape by like Ritz or like Waka Flocka, some of those type of folks just within the pitch behind it, seem less kind of within the commonplace of it. It's just within the tone. It's kind of within the aspects. I'd say 8.5 social had a lot of good aspects. Just kind of the fact that the gospel kind of tones about this product is just not so much a derailment, but it's just kind of the concept that you just have to have the aspect of what your appetite for that would happen to be. But it is pretty vanilla. It's definitely like a vanilla mixtape here, just very within the banner aspects, like I was saying. It's just something that has like the appeal of just having like the commonplace, definitely casual aspects for the most part, has the aspects on it. It's just the fact that it's just not as the edge factor is on here, but it just does it within like public relations being pretty high. So it's just in the tone. So that's kind of the thing. But in terms of the future, like Chance the Rapper has been supposedly working on something, don't know his full bound. I mean, I haven't heard much out of Chance the Rapper since he dropped The Big Day back in 2019 or 2020. So it's been a while as far as this pitch going to happen. There is at least one more Chance the Rapper mixtape I'm going to get to as far as this pitch going to happen. I don't know how many full bound projects he has, but I know he dropped a few throughout the 2010s. We'll have to see about some of these. But yeah, this is definitely a delightful mixtape to kind of get within that aspect. Definitely a promising treat to kind of have some of those definite type fares. This has a lot of goodies on here just from the aspect of it. It's pretty noteworthy in terms of like casual appeal and stuff like that. It's pretty banner type project. Got a lot of downloads. This has the Billy behind it, so it's some good delightfulness kind of get within that tone.